Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is day 7 of the Crafty Advent Calendar for 2025. If you're new here, all of the videos for the Crafty Advent Calendar are in the same playlist, so they're easy to follow or easy to find and see the previous ones. Today we have some stencils. I am doing one video a day for the first 24 days of December, creating something or showing you what is in that window and creating something with it. Typically a card. At this point, I've only made cards. Who knows? It may change on one day if I get inspiration from something. But today with this stencil set, I'm going to create a card front with it. I'm using some color shift inks. I like the fact that they blend really easily, as well as the fact that they have the beautiful shimmer that interference inks also have. The shimmer is just a little bit more subtle than the interference inks, but they do have gorgeous shimmer to them. The color shift inks are a little bit of a creamier formula, more meant for blending with each other, which is what I'm going to do. Anytime I'm doing something with butterflies and butterfly wings, I always love to have two different colors blended into each other. So these inks are perfect for that. You could do them with the interference inks if you want, but you're kind of fake blending because the inks dry so fast. You kind of have to work really quickly and kind of change the pressure that you have on your brush in order to make it look like a blend. The color shift inks are a lot easier to do that blend. So for the first butterfly here, I used Fruit Punch as well as Golden Heather. I'm working on my sticky mat so that my cardstock here, and I'm just working on hammer mill cardstock, is nice and secure, but I am taking some scrap paper and masking off the other areas. Sometimes when I'm doing ink blending with stencils, I get a little focused on the actual ink blending and I don't pay attention to the edge of the stencil. So by doing this, I can make sure that I don't accidentally get ink where I don't want it to go. For the second butterfly, I'm using Summer Sky and Under the Sea. This one I believe is Under the Sea, and then, no, I'm mixing and matching. Those are the two colors. One of them is blue with green and the other one is green with blue. These are, like the interference inks, look different on dark cardstock as they do on light cardstock. I'm not playing around with the interference properties with them, other than the fact that we're going to get some beautiful shimmer in these stenciled images where that ink is heavier. So the third stencil has the side profile of butterflies, and you can pick and choose which way you want your butterfly to go. The style is a little bit different for each one of them, but I love the fact that they have them going both ways so you can pick and choose. Obviously, you can flip the stencil over if you want a certain butterfly and you want it facing a certain way, which makes it really easy to customize it. You definitely want to make sure your stencil is clean before you flip it over. You don't want to have ink on there and then flip it over and transfer ink where you don't want it to. To change it up a little bit, for this butterfly, I'm using the pink, which is the Fruit Punch, and I'm pretty sure it's Under the Sea, which is the blue one, which would make sense. Then I'm going to add just a little bit of extra texture. Now this is gorgeous with the color shift inks because it has that shimmer to it, and the camera never does that shimmer justice. In real life, it's a lot more pretty. But I want to add just a little bit of extra texture. Typically when I do butterflies, there's usually dots around the wing edges. These stencils don't have it, so I'm faking it. I'm just creating dots. For this larger butterfly, I'm just kind of doing almost little teardrop shapes just to add that little bit of sparkle from stickles, as well as that little bit of texture. I use Stardust stickle, so it doesn't add any color at all. The color underneath shows through. It just adds just a little bit of opalescent sparkle to it. The last step here is to do some glossy accents, and I'm just doing that to the body of the butterfly. Once again, just to give it a different texture, and it's going to give it some clear gloss to it. Before moving on, I want to make sure to let this completely dry. So I let it dry for probably about an hour. Probably didn't need to wait quite that long, but I always like to make sure that it is completely dry before continuing. Now, rather than touching my actual project, if you wanted to have something that you could touch to make sure it's dry, I recommend grabbing a piece of scrap paper and putting the amount of stickles or glossy accents that you had used on your project on that scrap piece of paper. So then if you want to check and make sure things are dry, you can just use that scrap and test that, touch that. So if by chance it's not quite dry and you ruin it, you're not ruining anything because it's just the tester piece. With my mat for this card, I am trimmed a piece of cardstock to be 4 1/8 inches by 5 3/8 inches. That is just hammer mill cardstock, and I use that golden heather color shift pad to ink around the edges. My butterfly image piece here is trimmed to 4 inches by 5¼ inches. So I have a really thin mat, but by using the color shift inks on my mat for this card, first of all, I didn't have to worry about trying to find colors that blended or worked perfectly with those color shift inks. The inks are going to obviously be the exact same color as the inks that I used. It's a lot quicker. Plus I get that little bit of shimmer on that mat and it ties in beautifully. For sentiments for this card, I'm using the Soaring Sentiments press plate and die set. You could also use a stamp set. Typically when I do this series with the Advent calendar, I try not to add many other products other than paper or inks. But the sentiments that we've had so far didn't have anything about soaring or flying, or they would work, but they weren't going to be perfect for what I wanted. I wanted something that had kind of a flying or soaring sentiment. So this set is perfect for that. I'm using just Hammermill cardstock for them, and I'm using some super fine white embossing powder. So yes, I'm embossing white on white, but I'm going to do ink blending on the background so that I have colored background with white letters. Now, you can see that my press plate wasn't cleaned off last time I used it. I try to be good about cleaning it off. This time I wasn't. I should have actually cleaned it off when I noticed that, but I thought I could get away with not doing it. The color or the sentiments that have the different color that picked up that ink, I won't be using those for this project anyways. I will either save them for a future project. They may work for something else. When I have extra sentiments, I take a Ziploc bag and I put it right with that set so that I know next time I'm using that set, something that I've already done for a previous project may work with what I'm doing. That way I know exactly where to look for the sentiments that I've done with that set. It makes it really nice and easy. I'm going to use the coordinating die set with this press plate and die set. I'm going to tape it in place with some Best Ever Craft tape, and then I'm going to die cut it. I always like to tape that die in place just to make sure it doesn't shift on me. I have to say it was a little bit more challenging to line up with the white embossing on white cardstock. It was doable, but it's definitely a lot more challenging than letters that you can actually see really quite easily on that background. So I'm going to be using 2 of these sentiments together, and the rest of them are going to be saved for a future project. I'm going to use those color shift inks to do the ink blending on the background. That embossing will resist the ink. However, you do want to take a clean piece of paper towel and rub any that comes or that stays on there just to clean off that embossing. So I started off with using the Golden Heather on the top one and using the Summer Sky one on the bottom one. However, after doing that, I thought it would be nice if they were ombre. So I went and grabbed the Under the Sea and did that on the top of that bottom sentiment there. And I'm going to be taking the Fruit Punch and putting a little bit of that on the top of the upper sentiment, just so that all of the 4 colors are on those sentiments, just to tie in with the blending on the butterflies as well. So once I have those sentiments done, I can add them to the front of the card. Now I'm going to put both of them on the front of the card. You could take them and put them on the inside of the card if you didn't necessarily want both of them on the front or any sentiments on the front. You could put them on the inside, and again, that would make the sentiments coordinate together with them on the inside. I was paying attention when I was inking my sentiments, trying to pay attention to what colors of butterflies were going to be behind them so that they would stand out a little bit more. It does make the front of the card a little bit busier than when it was just the butterflies. But like I said, easy way to change that would be to just use one of the sentiments and keep the other one for the inside of the card, or put both of them on the inside. So this is my project for the day 7 of the Crafty Advent Calendar. I will be back again tomorrow and we'll find out what is under day 8's window, and we'll create something with that. Hope to see you then.